Hi, and welcome to Suite B, a live stream series highlighting local artists. We do this here at Professor B Studios. My name is Mike Bennett, and I'm going to be kind of doing a little bit of the interview tonight. I want to take a minute to tell a really quick story that sets up our guest for tonight. When we first started the idea of this show, the initial concept was a very selfish one. It was something I wanted to do to continue to hang out with artists that I had met while doing some things in the local venues around Winston-Salem. And so I had the idea that night of let me just send out as many invites as I can to people that I know, hoping that I can convince them to come on the show. And if we get through Christmas, we'll call it a success. We'll do a Christmas special and we'll call it done. So I sent out 17 invites that very first day and got a few responses back that same day, went to bed that night, woke up the next morning to 41 notifications specifically about the show. And embedded in those notifications was a message from a group called Nevilles, who I had never heard of before and did not send a message. So immediately I had questions. So they were actually the first message I sent back out that following day because I was immediately curious, not only as to how in the world they found out about the show that hadn't started yet, but also why they wanted to be a part of it. So if you'll help me welcome Nevilles. Yeah. So thanks. But I want to start with knowing the other side of the story, because I actually haven't gotten the answer to that yet. How'd you find out about it? Why'd you want to be a part of it? Like, what got us to here?
It's nice to know we were the first. Wow.
Well,
yeah.
I think we saw a post from our great friends, the Couldn't Be Happiers. They had forwarded on your message on Facebook, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, yep.
Yeah.
So I owe them.
Yeah.
Great.
Who happened to be in the studio?
Yeah, they're hiding around behind the camera somewhere. So now that we've got that little bit of history and origin out of the way, let's launch into some introductions and kind of get to know you guys a little bit. So Brian, let's start with you because I want you to set it. Normally I'd go ladies first, but there's a reason that I'm not. So I know that you teach, which is kind of my roots is in education, and so when I saw that, I got very excited about it. But it's not so much at, like traditionally, like you're the band director or something like that.
He's not a professor.
Not a professor. I'm also not actually a professor. We'll tell that story another time because I've caught plenty of crap over it. It's also not a self-given name. It was given to me, and it's a nod to some students that I used to have, and so that's why we hung on to it.
You can't even start calling yourself a professor.
I can't. But you teach, and the reason I want to start there is because you're the daughter of an educator. And so I want to get back around to that by way of teaching. So let's talk about that first, if you don't mind, kind of what you do with the education stuff and where it's at and what's that all about.
Yeah, I'm a teacher assistant in a first grade classroom. So I spend my days with little tiny people. Yeah. Which is a lot of fun, but it's a perfect job because it allows me to be done by 2:30 and then I can move on to music.
Gotcha. And moving on to music, do you still do some teaching stuff with guitar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I teach for junior affiliation musicians, which is based in Siler City and sponsored by Shikori Hills, and the whole program is based on getting instruments into kids' hands who can't afford them. So,
that's awesome. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's move from you over to Lex, who grew up in a house under a choir director.
Yeah.
How did that, I'm going to try to ask it without asking it in the most cheesy way. How did that affect a lean towards or away from music as you were growing up, but then also as you met someone who is as heavily involved in music and also teaches music?
Well, leaning into my interests and choices in life, it's everything basically, and not just pushing me into it, but pushing me away from it also, of course. And she wasn't just a choir director. She, being a musician, you often have to take on 3 or 4 jobs, especially if you're a parent. Yeah. She was a choir teacher, a music teacher in a public school at high school. She taught jazz courses. First and foremost, she would actually consider herself a piano teacher, not a choir director. Yeah.
Okay.
So she always had quite a few jobs. Yeah. And I've always been surrounded by music, and you know, speaking of the number of jobs you have to have, I can tell you she was not pushing me to be into music at all. It was doctor all the way. So,
really?
Yeah. And I somewhat followed her instructions or encouragement. I have a degree in nutrition, and I do not use that. Music just keeps pulling me back. Yeah, so yes, it absolutely was a huge influence. And I think it helps a lot. I'm grateful for everything she introduced to me and exposed for me and growing up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're looking at the fiddle instructor at Jam as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm lucky to be part of that.
Yeah, that's
great.
awesome. So, Lex, staying with you for a moment.
Yeah.
When did the love and implementation of solfege come into
That's funny.
what you're doing? And how does that work? Because I've read that, and I immediately went, okay, I have to know.
Oh, you're looking
And
at
what
the
is-
bio he wrote.
And what is solfege for the people who don't know?
Okay, yeah. Solfege is, it's all based on something called solmization, where we associate certain syllables to pitches, and it doesn't have to do, it's not a fixed pitch, it's all relative. You can transpose the scale of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, those are the syllables, the solmizations.
For a major scale.
For a major scale.
Because we're going to,
It,
we'll get
it
complicated in a
changes.
second.
Yeah, if you're in minor scales, harmonics and all that. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and do. I use it in my music courses. It's great.
I'm having flashbacks right now.
Yeah, a visualization of music for the body. So your ear can associate pitch versus a physical, tangible kind of feeling, and there's that, you know, Pavlovian association psychology thing going on. It helps a lot, yeah.
So you're actually teaching others that in what you teach?
I'm not supposed to, really. It's supposed to be traditional.
Well, that wasn't the question, though. Not are you supposed to?
I do.
You do? Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah.
So, Brian, how much of that have you picked up?
Oh, I'm horrible at that.
Okay.
I'm somewhat force-feeding him.
She's the real musician here.
No. We're not going that route. So, Brian, I want to get around to a place where we talk about kind of the blending of influences. I don't want to talk about influences. I really try to avoid that when we do interviews and stuff, because it's kind of such a catchy, like, who are your influences? That's not really what I mean. In what you play, which we're going to hear some of in a little bit, and what I've heard of you recorded and some of the other things just in the digging around and getting to know you guys from afar a little bit, and then getting to know you a little more today, some of those influences pop up not just in intentional writing moments and these sorts of things. There's these touches of classical training that come out. There's this definite, even though you're not doing it, phrasing of some not, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say classic hip hop, but there's definitely some of that in there. But not just that, I also think that there may be some blues and some rock influence that we haven't really talked about. And so when you're songwriting and when you're working on arrangement stuff together, where did those meet and where do they bump heads?
Well, we tend to actually, we were talking about this in the car on the way here, we tend to write more separately, and so I'll write a song or she'll write a song.
Oh, okay.
And then we fit it together
Yeah.
with the instrumentation. So like my songs tend to be much more direct and rhyme schemey, like
Right.
hip hop.
Yeah.
And hers tend to be more thoughtful and musical, I would say.
I told you we weren't going.
It's
we weren't going to that
difficult
side
for
of
me to
things.
play.
Yeah. So, and I guess there's some overlap there in instruments that you play as well. And how does that work? I mean, if you're writing separately, do you say, no, I want you to play this line or this part or this chord, or do you kind of fill in the blanks as the person who didn't write the song? How does that work?
Yeah, certainly fill in the blanks. The song isn't finished for us until we've tried performing it, and then there's even more composing going on. So yeah, a song isn't finished until we figured out each other's parts, for sure.
Yeah, most of the time it's her filling in stuff for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then he'll probably rewrite some of the stuff that he wrote before to adapt to whatever I'm interpreting. Yeah.
That's awesome. So in watching some of your videos, and actually before I ask the question about the videos, let's talk about your show, because you do this.
Yeah,
you host a show over in the Chapel Hill Carborough area that's highlighting local artists and pulling people out of the area to give them another platform to be seen on and to be documented on and recorded on and broadcast on. Can you talk a little bit about your show, what it's called, where people can find it? Just kind of give us the info.
Absolutely.
So probably similar to you, I woke up one morning and was like, we got to do this thing that I have an idea about.
My wife is laughing off camera.
And I was like, so first it was just me and her performing in my living room every Wednesday, and we quickly ran out of material.
So you started without guests?
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Yeah, we did a dozen
guests.
of them. Yeah.
We did about you'd say 10.
I'm going through them now. I'm trying to make a podcast out of it now,
really?
so people can just listen to it and not watch it.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I know it was exactly a dozen.
So I figured we'd be cycling through things way too quickly, and so I was like, what am I going to do about this? And then I was like, I know 100 million songwriters because I host a songwriter circle at the Carborough Arts Center every second and fourth Monday of the month.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's the North Carolina Co-op Songwriter Circle.
Oh, wow.
Carborough. Yeah.
So I was like, let's tap into that and get guests in every week, and then we can play less songs every week and make this a much more sustainable thing. And just in January, we had our 1-year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And we had this giant bonanza party where we invited everybody who had been on the show to do a performance on 4 different stages, all going simultaneously.
Oh man,
it was amazing.
But we did it all acoustic, so we didn't have to
Festival.
worry about mics or anything.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
that. It was great.
Yeah, just our style. iPhones, no mics, just go for it. Yeah.
So for people who are wanting to watch,
you just go to the Nevilles Quarter Facebook page and follow our
Yeah.
page, and we do it every Wednesday at 6 p.m.
every week.
Yep.
So we just do every
every
week.
single
It's-
Wednesday.
yeah.
Yes.
Easier. No. And then, if I remember correctly, you also repost
Oh yeah.
kind of the
to
Yeah,
YouTube.
that's
to
right.
YouTube.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
for people who aren't checking it out live,
Yeah, we're usually like 4 or 5 weeks behind on posting.
Yeah, we
Okay.
do them in bulk.
yeah, awesome.
Maybe we'll change. Maybe we'll get better. But it's on YouTube as well. If you wanna watch some
It's
of
what it
those.
is. So in doing the show and in reaching out to local artists, I know that we talked a little bit before, actually before we were live, about whether or not your songwriter circle was a place to feed musicians and stuff. But it's not just that, because I think that could very easily be the idea is, well, you're leading this thing. It's very easy to grab people from there and say, hey, come be on our show.
Yeah.
But you've actually got people coming
Yeah.
from all over.
It's
Are
surprising
they,
how many we meet.
so are they all people that you already know?
Usually, no.
Okay.
I mean,
usually
the
it's
songwriter circle.
me basically finding somebody and then following them their page, commenting a little bit, and then
He
being
listens
like,
to music on his phone constantly. He's
and
always
then reaching out to
discovering
somebody and being
people.
like, hey, I see that you know my friend Joe over here,
Right.
who's been on this show. Would you like to be on this
Yeah.
show?
Joe had a really good time. You should have a really good time too.
Yeah. Or like my friends that couldn't be happiers who are here today. I dropped their name, and we have James Vincent Carroll coming at some point.
So that'll be fun.
You just dropped their name.
You just drop it, you drop the name of the Couldn't Be Happiers. You just all kinds of things happen. See, you said big. I'm just saying all kinds of things happen. We're not even going to be specific about what kind of things. Just all kinds of things happen. I could, especially between music nerdom and hip hop reminiscence and live stream questions and everything else, I really feel like we could sit here and talk for a long time. But that's not the MO of our show. So we're gonna kind of stop here. We're gonna take a really quick break. Flip the scene a little bit, get you guys up on stage and check out some of your music. But before we go to break, will you let everybody know all the places, social media, streaming services, everywhere that they can check you out, check your show out, anything you've got coming up? I know you've got a show that's coming Thursday. Just kind of plug all the things that you can so that while we're taking a break, people can go mark calendars and throw you guys some follows and some likes and stuff.
Great.
All right.
So like you said, Thursday we're going to be at the Hot Tin Roof in Hillsborough. With Leah Kaufman. On Sunday, we're going to be at Full Steam Brewery in Durham. And then other than that, my suggestion would be to follow us on Facebook, because that's where we do most of our outreach and are best at keeping things on schedule.
Yeah.
You can go to our website, nevillesquarter.com, and you can follow us on Spotify. We have a YouTube channel. You can follow us there as well. And we also have a CD app.
I was going to say, and if they come see you live.
If you come see us live, there's a song on here called Key Lime Sky, which we're going to play for you right now.
You have to be there in person to get it.
Yeah, this is the only place where that recording exists right now. So they're cheap too, $5, so just come to a show.
And it's worth the drive. So we're going to take a really quick break, and then we'll be right back with Nevilles Quarter.
All right, we're going to start out with our song Bad for Business. That's to let them know what I'm thinking. That's to let them know how it is. Well, that's just bad for business. Yeah, no, no, that's how it goes. I'm way too angry to forget her. I'm way too angry to move on. Well, that's just bad for my sake. You gotta learn from your mistakes. Drunk with my own emotions. I'm drunk with ideas of power. Well, that's just bad for all of us. Somebody help me sober down. I'm getting too old for playing. I'm getting too old to have some fun. Well, that's just a bunch of nonsense. You shouldn't take the fun out of life. Dreams were made for chasing. I'm sure you've had your doubts.
Yeah,
Well, doubting's bad for a living. You gotta believe in yourself. We all have something to share. We all have a reason to care. Well, I'm just happy to be here, sharing this moment with you. All right, that's called Bad for Business. You can't hear that one anywhere except for live too, so come on out and see us at the Hot Tin Roof this Thursday if you can. This next one is called Key Lime Sky.
Key Lime Sky. It's a bittersweet love song.
There is a little story behind this song.
Yeah.
When we were deciding on band names, we narrowed it down to Nevilles Quarter and Key Lime Sky. And we let all of our Facebook friends decide what our band name would be, so we put it up for a vote. And so the people chose Nevilles Quarter. And to keep the other half of the people who voted for Key Lime Sky happy, we wrote them a song.
Yes.
And then made it the title track on our first CD.
Which you can only get in person.
Yes.
Lightning flashed over waves in the dawn, and the leaves on the trees were bright blue. On the porch of the station, they could hear the beach whisper all the words the wind blew out of you. And when the train came, his heart filled with rain, though the clouds still had work to do. He saw a key lime sky. was looking ahead with a smile that said, or if white bees say our tunes. The train sped away from a love that couldn't stay, her homeland she promised to return to. She thinks how there's nothing so sweet as that feeling of starting anew under a key lime sky, under a key lime sky. Then one rainy day the wind blew her away, the memory of words that ring true. Follow your dreams, be what you can be in the place that calls to you. We were meant to be together, just look at the weather, say the words and I'll come flying to you. Into a key lime sky, into a key lime sky, into a key lime sky. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Oh, no, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so.
Sorry.
Oh, you're all.
Thank you.
You're all wired in. That's okay. So again, just a big thanks to both of you for being here, for sharing with us, for taking the time, for making the drive.
Oh, yeah.
It was great to have you, and I'm just going to go ahead and publicly make the offer. If you ever decide to do a Nevilles Quarter Winston,
Okay.
you're welcome to use the space. I think
All
it'd be
right.
great to have you guys back over.
Great.
So a couple of quick notes before we kind of replug you guys and then close out for the night. This was a back-to-back week, so this one was a little bit different because we had just some scheduling complications on my end. But we are going to resume our regular schedule, so I'll be posting all those events on the Professor B Studios Facebook page. But we are not back next week or the week after, and we'll jump back on the regular schedule after that. So I apologize if the back-to-back weeks threw anybody off, but we were not going to cancel on these guys. I had to have them in the studio. So one more time, where all can they find you guys?
NevillesQuarter.com and on Facebook. Just look up Nevilles Quarter. There's not another one.
Yeah.
Spotify?
Yeah, Spotify, and follow us on YouTube as
There
well.
you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'll do it.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks again for being here. We'll see you guys in a few weeks.
Yeah. And subscribe to Professor
Oh.
B if you haven't already.